She refused to spend her birthday with me, preferring dinner with a friend from work. She thought I was just another clueless husband who would never notice. But when our 8-year-old daughter mentioned that Uncle Derek had bought her ice cream, everything shattered in a way she could never have imagined. My name is Garry Whitman. I'm 43 years old and the owner of Whitman's Recovery Services. Basically, I'm the guy you call when your car breaks down or gets towed. It's not a glamorous job, but it pays the bills and puts food on the table for my family, or at least for what I thought was my family. The morning it all began was October 15th, Bethan's 38th birthday. I got up early, just like I always did on her special day, to prepare a little surprise. Nothing extravagant, mind you, just her favorite coffee brewing in the kitchen, a small jewelry box with the earrings she'd been eyeing at the mall, and a handmade card from our 8-year-old daughter, Camila, placed beside it. Camilla had worked on that card for hours the night before, drawing little hearts and writing "Happy Birthday, Mommy" in her careful second grade script. She'd been so excited to give it to her mom, bouncing around the house like a pinball until I finally managed to settle her down for bed. But when I walked into our bedroom at 7 a.m. with the coffee and gifts, the bed was empty. Cold, too, as if Bethan had been gone for a while. The bathroom was dark, no sound of the shower or her usual morning routine, just silence. I checked my phone and found a text, sent at 6:30. Had to go into work early. Busy day ahead. Love you. No birthday excitement. No mention of the plans we'd talked about for that evening. Just a cold, clinical message, about as warm as a business email. But I pushed down the strange feeling in my gut and told myself she was just stressed with work. Around noon, while I was helping Jimmy Patterson pull his Buick out of a ditch on Highway 9, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message made my blood run cold. Going to dinner with Derek from the office tonight for my birthday. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at that message for a full minute, sitting in the cab of my tow truck while Jimmy waited outside. Derek. She'd mentioned him before, always casually, always with that little laugh that wasn't supposed to mean anything. Just a friend from work, she'd say. He's practically like a brother. But brothers don't take married women out for birthday dinners, and wives don't ditch their husband and daughter to go out with a coworker. At least not the wives I knew. I texted back immediately. What about Camilla's school concert tonight? She's been practicing for weeks. The reply came in a flash. You can handle it. She'll understand. That's when I knew something was really wrong. The Beth and I married would never miss our daughter's first solo performance. Not for all the Derricks in the world. I spent the rest of the afternoon taking calls, but my mind wasn't on the job. Every time I hauled a Honda out of a parking garage or jump-started a dead battery, I kept replaying that message. The more I turned it over in my head, the more it felt wrong. When I got home around 5, Camilla was at the kitchen table doing her homework, her little legs swinging from the chair. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes, Bethan's eyes, and asked the question that hit me like a sledgehammer. Daddy, is Mommy coming to my concert tonight? I knelt beside her, trying to keep my voice steady. Well, sweetie, Mommy has to work late tonight, but I'll be there, and I'll clap loud enough for both of us. Camilla's face fell, but she just nodded. I practiced my song just for her. It was in that moment that something inside me shifted. My wife could lie to me all she wanted, But seeing my daughter's disappointment was crossing a line I never even knew existed. I helped Camilla get ready for her concert, trying to braid her hair the way Bethan usually did. Mine came out crooked, and she had to fix it herself. On the drive to the school, she kept asking when mommy would be home, and I kept making up excuses that even I didn't believe. The concert was in the Jefferson Elementary cafeteria. Folding chairs were set up in crooked rows as parents balanced coffee cups and cell phones. I found a spot in the third row, right where Camilla could see me. When it was her turn to sing This Land is Your Land with her class, her eyes scanned the audience until they found my face. I gave her a big thumbs up, but I could see the reflection of the empty seat beside me in her eyes. After the show, while I was helping Camilla pack up, Mrs. Patterson, Jimmy's wife and Camilla's teacher, came over to chat. "Where's Bethan tonight?" Mrs. Patterson asked. "She never misses these things." I forced a smile. "Work emergency. You know how it is." But Mrs. Patterson didn't look convinced. To be honest, neither was I. The ride home was quiet. Camilla fell asleep in her car seat, still in her little concert dress. As I carried her inside and tucked her into bed, she mumbled something that froze my blood. "Daddy, why does Uncle Derek buy me ice cream when Mommy picks me up from school?" The air left my lungs for a second. Uncle Derek. But she was already fast asleep, leaving me standing in her doorway with 1,000 questions and no good answers. I went to the kitchen and opened a beer, then sat at the table, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to text Bethan and demand answers, but another part, the part that was starting to connect dots I didn't want to see, knew that whatever she said would just be another lie. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I started paying attention. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I heard a car door shut or an engine turn over, I'd peek through the blinds, thinking it was Bethan. She didn't come in until around 2 in the morning, and when she did, she moved through the house like a ghost, quiet, careful, guilty. The next morning, I made a decision that would have seemed insane to me a week earlier. I was going to follow my wife. After I dropped Camilla at school, she asked again about Mommy missing the concert, and I had to change the subject. I drove to the office building where Bethan worked. Morrison and Associates, a mid-sized accounting firm downtown. I'd been there a few times for company picnics and holiday parties, but I'd never paid much attention to the people she worked with. I parked across the street with a clear view of the main entrance and waited. At 10:30, Bethan walked out with a man I'd never seen before. Tall, slim, wearing one of those expensive suits that screamed, "I make more money than a tow truck driver." It had to be Derek. What I saw next made me grip the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. He placed his hand on the small of her back as they walked to his BMW. It wasn't a casual touch, not a friendly gesture. It was the kind of intimate gesture that said they'd done this dance before. They drove to Luigi's, an upscale Italian place on Fifth Avenue. Through the window, I watched them order wine with lunch. Wine with lunch on a Wednesday. Bethan never drank during work hours. She said it was unprofessional. But there she was, laughing at whatever Derek said, touching his arm across the table like they were the only two people in the world. I took out my phone and started taking pictures. Not because I had some elaborate plan, but because I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't going crazy. Proof that the woman I married, the mother of my child, was playing house with another man while I was at home wondering what I'd done wrong. When they left the restaurant, Derek's hand found her waist again. This time, Bethan leaned into him. Really leaned in, like that was where she belonged. That's when I knew this wasn't some innocent friendship anymore. This was something else. something that had been going on long enough for them to have their own routine, their own signals, their own secret world that didn't include me or Camilla. I followed them back to the office building, watched them separate in the parking garage, professional again, back in their roles. But I had seen enough. Whatever game they were playing, I wasn't going to be the fool who pretended it wasn't happening. For the first time in months, I felt like I had some control. Not much, but enough to start making plans of my own. That night, I did something that would have made the old me sick to my stomach. I went through Bethan's things like a detective working a case. While she was in the shower, taking longer than usual, I checked her purse. I found a receipt from Victoria's Secret, dated 3 days earlier. Lingerie. Expensive stuff. The kind she used to wear for me when we were first married, but hadn't bothered with in years. I also found something else. A hotel key card, tucked between her credit cards, as if she was trying to hide it. The Graham Hotel. Last Friday, the same Friday she told me she was working late on the Henderson account. My hands were shaking as I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. When Bethan came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, I was sitting on the bed, pretending to read something on my phone. "How was work?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. Bethan looked at me in the mirror as she brushed her hair. "Fine. Busy." Derek and I had to go over some client proposals. Derek and I, like they were a team, like I was just some guy she lived with. "That's good," I said. "Maybe I should take you out to lunch one of these days. We haven't done that in a while." She froze for just a second, almost imperceptible unless you were looking for it. "Oh, you know how crazy work is. It's hard to get away during the day." But she'd gotten away just fine to drink wine with Derek. Later that night, after Bethan was asleep, I did another thing I'd never done. I called my friend, Mike, who owned a private investigation service. We'd known each other since high school, and he'd helped me out a few times when clients tried to skip out on a towing bill. "Mike, it's Garry," I said. "I need a favor." His voice was sleepy. "Jesus, Garry, it's midnight. What's wrong?" "My wife is cheating on me." Silence on the other end. Then, "You sure?" "Sure enough." "I need to know how long and how deep this goes." "It'll cost you, man," he said. "And once you know, you can't unknow it." I looked over at Bethan, sleeping peacefully beside me. Her face relaxed and innocent in the moonlight. In a few hours, she would wake up, kiss my cheek, and tell me she loved me, just like she had every morning for the past 8 years. And all of it would be a lie. I need to know. I told him everything. "Give me 3 days," he said. "I'll call you on Friday." 3 days to find out if my marriage was worth saving or if I needed to start planning for a very different future. 3 days to decide if I was going to keep playing the fool or start fighting back. I hung up the phone and stared at the ceiling until dawn, listening to my wife breathe beside me and wondering how long she'd been lying. On Friday afternoon, Mike called while I was towing a Ford Explorer out of Mercy Creek. I'd been waiting for this call all week, but when the phone rang, I almost didn't want to answer. "Garry, we need to meet," Mike said. His voice was different, serious. "You free tonight?" "Yeah," I said. "Bethan has her book club." Another lie, I knew, but it wasn't even worth confronting her about anymore. We met at Murphy's Bar on the south side of town, the kind of dive where truckers and factory workers go to forget their problems. Mike was already there when I arrived, a beer in front of him, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "There's more," Mike said, pushing a folder across the table. Derek isn't just some coworker. He's the boss's nephew on the management track. He let that sink in. Word is, Bethan's been trying for a promotion. Sleeping with Derek is her ticket to the top. It hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't some grand romance. It wasn't love making her do crazy things. It was calculated, strategic. She was trading her family for a corner office and a better parking spot. What do you want to do? Mike asked. I picked up the photos he'd collected and slid them back into the folder. I want to end it, I said. All of it. On Saturday morning, I woke up with a plan. Not just any plan. A plan that was going to give Bethan exactly what she thought she wanted, just not in the way she ever expected to get it. As Bethan got ready for what she claimed was a shopping day with the girls, I made a phone call to her office. Derek answered his direct line on the second ring. Derek, I said, my voice as friendly as I could make it. This is Garry Whitman, Bethan's husband. Silence on the other end. Then, hello, how can I help you? Well, I began, I'm planning a surprise party for Betty next weekend, and I wanted to invite a few of her friends from work. She talks about you a lot. I could practically hear him sweat through the phone. That's very kind of you. She's always saying how much she enjoys working with you, that you two make a great team. I let that sentence hang in the air for a few seconds. Anyway, the party is next Saturday at 6 p.m. I hope you can make it. I'll check my calendar. Great. Oh, and Derek, bring a +1 if you'd like. I'm sure Betty would love to meet whoever you're seeing. After hanging up, I called Mike. I need you to do something for me. Saturday night, I want you at the Granville Hotel with a camera. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking Betty is going to panic when she realizes I know about her and Derek. And when people panic, they make mistakes. I spent the rest of the day observing my wife as if I were studying an exotic species. She moved through our home, played with our daughter, made dinner, all while plotting her next betrayal. The ease with which the lies fell from her lips was almost impressive. That night, while Camila watched cartoons and Betty was in the shower, I did something that felt like closing a door forever. I called my lawyer, Tom Bradley, the same man who'd handled my company's incorporation. Tom, I need to file for divorce, I said softly. Jesus, Garry, what happened? My wife has been cheating on me for 4 months, using our daughter as cover. I have photographs, hotel records, everything. Bring it all to my office Monday morning. We'll take her for everything we can. I don't want her money, Tom. I want my daughter. With what you've described, that shouldn't be a problem. Ohio courts don't look kindly on mothers who use their children to facilitate adultery. On Sunday morning, Betty announced she had to run some errands, alone, on a Sunday when most stores were closed. Take all the time you need, I told her, kissing her cheek as if nothing had changed. Camila and I will be here when you get back. But we wouldn't be. While Betty was off playing house with Derek Morrison, I was taking my daughter to my parents for the day, leaving her with people who truly loved her, who wouldn't use her as a prop in their lives. Watching her drive away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness, not relief, but the quiet certainty that comes from finally knowing exactly where you stand. The games were over. It was time to end it. Saturday arrived like a judgment day. I'd spent the week making calls, sending invitations, and preparing what looked like a normal surprise birthday party for Betty. The only surprise was going to be mine. I picked Camila up from my parents around noon. She'd been excited all week about Mommy's party, helping me plan the decorations and games. It broke my heart to know She had no idea this would be the last family party we would ever have together. Daddy, when are we going to surprise Mommy? Camilla asked as we hung streamers in the living room. Soon, sweetheart. Very soon. Around 5:30, people started to arrive. Betty's sister Karen was first, then a few neighbors and colleagues from my auto shop. Real friends and family, the kind of people who had been part of our lives for years, the kind of people who deserved to see what Betty was really doing behind their backs. At 6 o'clock sharp, Derek Morrison walked through my front door as if he owned the place. He brought expensive flowers and wore a suit that probably cost more than I made in a week. The audacity of the man to show up at my home with gifts for my wife after sleeping with her for 4 months. Gary, Derek said, extending a hand as if we were old friends. Thanks for having me. Where's the birthday girl? I shook his hand, my grip just a little firmer than necessary. She'll be here any minute. Can I get you a drink? Sure, a beer will do. I handed him a Corona and watched him scan the room, probably looking for the exits. Smart man. He was going to need them. At 6:15, Betty walked in with shopping bags, calling out that she'd picked up some last-minute party supplies. When she saw the crowd in the living room, her face lit up with genuine surprise. Oh my God, you guys, she said, dropping the bags and accepting hugs from everyone. I can't believe you did this. But when her eyes landed on Derek, standing by the fireplace, her smile faltered for just a second. I saw it, and so did Karen, who glanced between them with a puzzled expression. Derek, Betty said, recovering quickly. What a surprise. I didn't know Gary invited people from work. Derek raised his beer bottle. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Happy birthday, Betty. The way he said her name, intimate, familiar, made several heads turn. My neighbor Bob raised an eyebrow. Karen's expression shifted from puzzled to suspicious. For the next hour, I watched my wife navigate the most uncomfortable situation of her life. Every time Derek tried to get close, she'd find an excuse to move away. Whenever someone asked how they knew each other, she gave vague answers about work projects. She was trapped between two worlds, and the walls were closing in fast. At 7:30, I tapped a fork against my beer bottle and called for attention. I'd like to make a toast, I announced, to my beautiful wife, Betty. She's been working so hard lately, pulling extra hours, staying late for important meetings, even working weekends with dedicated colleagues like Derek here. Derek went pale. Betty's smile looked painted on. So, here's to dedication, I continued, raising my bottle, to commitment, and to getting exactly what you deserve. After the toast, I cornered Derek by the kitchen island while Betty opened presents in the living room. Having a good time? I asked quietly. I bet. In fact, I have some pictures that show just how well you two work together. I pulled out my phone and showed him one of Mike's photos, the two of them holding hands at the Chester Chop House. Derek's beer bottle slipped from his hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. The crash made everyone in the living room look over. Everything okay in there? Karen called out. Just a little accident, I replied. Derek's just a bit on edge. Aren't you, Derek? He was staring at the photo on my phone like it was a snake about to strike. Gary, I can explain. Oh, I think you've done enough explaining. I swiped to the next photo. Them leaving the Grandview Hotel together. 4 months, Derek. 4 months. You've been sleeping with my wife while I was out working to support my family. No, we didn't. What? You didn't think I'd find out? You didn't think there would be consequences? I moved in closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk into that room and you're going to tell everyone exactly what kind of professional relationship you've been having with my wife. I can't do that. Then I will. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. Everyone. Derek has something he'd like to share about his work with Betty. The room went silent. Betty looked like she was about to be sick. Actually, I continued, I'll help him out. Derek and my wife have been having an affair for the past 4 months. They meet at hotels, have romantic lunches, and use my daughter as a cover for their little getaways. The silence was deafening. Then Karen stood up, her face white with shock. Betty, she said, her voice trembling. Is this true? Betty looked around at all the staring faces. Friends, family, neighbors who had known us for years. People who had celebrated our wedding, thrown our baby shower, who had been part of our life back when we were happy. She started, but then stopped, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Derek tried to slip toward the front door, but Bob Mitchell, my neighbor and an ex-Marine, blocked his path. I don't think you're going anywhere just yet, son, he said quietly. Betty, I said, my voice cutting through the tension, these people came here to celebrate you. Don't you think they deserve to know who they're really celebrating? Tears started streaming down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret. Just the cold satisfaction of seeing a liar finally get caught. It's true, she whispered. Then, louder. It's true. I've been seeing Derek. The room erupted. Karen started to cry. My neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, gasped and put a hand to her mouth. Bob just shook his head, as if he'd seen this kind of thing too many times before. But I wasn't done. Tell them about the hotels, Betty. Tell them how you used our daughter as your alibi. Tell them how you've been planning to leave your family for a man you've known for 4 months. And then, for the first time since this all began, my wife finally told the truth. The party ended faster than a fire drill. Within 20 minutes, our living room was empty, except for Betty, Derek, and me. Karen had taken Camila to her house. Until you two sort this mess out, she'd said, giving her sister a look that could strip paint. Derek stood by the door like a cornered animal, glancing at his watch every few seconds. Betty sat on the couch, still in her party dress, crying into her hands. The birthday decorations scattered around the room seemed obscene now, evidence of a life that was nothing but a lie. Sit down, Derek, I said. We're not done talking. Look, man, I think I should go. I said, sit down. My voice had an edge that made Derek's eyes widen. He sat. I walked to the closet by the front door and pulled out a manila envelope, the one Mike had given me a week ago. Before you go, Derek, I think there are a few things you should know about the woman you've been sleeping with. Garry, please, Betty started. Just stop. I didn't even look at her. You had your chance to tell the truth. Now it's my turn. I spread the photographs across the coffee table, like I was dealing a hand of cards. Pictures of them, at hotels, at restaurants, walking hand in parks. Months of evidence they thought would never see the light of day. This is what your great romance looks like from the outside, I told Derek. Cheap rooms and lies. Very romantic. Derek stared at the photos, growing paler with each one. How did you? Private investigator. When you're not very careful about hiding an affair, it's pretty easy to document. I picked up one photo of them kissing in the parking lot of the Grand View Hotel. This one's my favorite. You two look so happy together. Betty was sobbing uncontrollably now, but I felt nothing for her. Nothing but cold, calculated rage. Here's the thing, Derek. You thought you were playing house with a single woman. But Betty isn't single. She's married. She has a daughter. She has responsibilities that she's been ignoring while she played girlfriend with you. We love each other, Derek said weakly. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Love? Is that what you call using an 8-year-old girl as cover for an affair? Letting her call you Uncle Derek while you sleep with her mother? Derek's face went white. She told me you were already getting a divorce, that it was just a matter of time. Did she? I looked at Betty. Is that what you told him? That our marriage was already over? Betty couldn't meet my eyes. I thought, you thought what? That you could just rewrite history to make yourself feel better about being a cheater? I pulled out another envelope, the one Tom Bradley had prepared for me that morning. Well, I have good news, Derek. Betty wasn't lying about the divorce, just about the timing. I handed him the papers. Congratulations. You just helped destroy a marriage and traumatize a child. I hope it was worth it. Derek stared at the divorce papers as if they were written in a foreign language. Garry, I swear I didn't know. You didn't know she was married? You didn't know she had a daughter? Or did you just not care, as long as you were getting what you wanted? The silence between us was as heavy as a loaded gun. Finally, I walked to the door and opened it. Get out of my house, Derek, and if I ever see you near my daughter again, we'll be having a very different conversation. Derek left without another word, and suddenly, it was just Betty and me in the house we had called home for 6 years. The silence felt different now. It wasn't peace, but a void, as if the life had been sucked from the walls along with the lies. What happens now? Betty asked softly. I sat down across from her, the divorce papers still spread on the table between us. Now, you pack your things and decide where you're going to live. But the house is mine. I bought it with money from my business before we were married. Tom Bradley was very clear about that. Her eyes swept across the room, as if taking it in for the very last time, and maybe she was. What about Camila? She asked, her voice thin. When can I see her? I leaned forward, my voice firm and cold. That's up to you. If you make this difficult, if you try to drag our daughter into a custody battle, you will see her on alternating weekends, supervised. But if you're smart, if you sign the papers and make this easy, we can arrange something more reasonable. She's my daughter too. Then you should have thought of that before you decided Derek Morrison was more important than your family. Bethan was crying again, but her tears no longer moved me. I had seen too much, learned too much about the woman she truly was beneath the veneer of wife and mother. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I said, getting to my feet. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. What you did was a choice. Every day, for 4 months, you chose him over us. You chose lies over the truth. You chose your fantasy over your daughter's happiness. I walked to the window and looked out at the street where Camilla used to ride her bike, where we used to take family walks in the evening. All of that was gone now, erased by Bethan's selfishness. My lawyer will send you the custody agreement, I said, without turning around. Have your things packed and be out of here by next weekend. Please, she started. I know I messed up, but nothing. I finally turned to face her. You don't get a butt to bargain your way out of this. You made your choice. Now, live with it. A year later, I was sitting in the same room, but everything was different. Camilla was at the kitchen table doing her homework, humming softly to herself. She had adjusted better than I ever could have hoped. Kids are resilient like that. Bethan saw her on alternating weekends and some holidays, but our daughter was thriving in the stable environment I had built for us. I had started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but there was a woman, Sarah, who made me laugh and treated Camilla like she mattered. Small steps towards something that might, one day, become love again. The divorce had been finalized 6 months earlier. Bethan signed everything without a fight. She probably realized she didn't have much of a choice. Not with all the evidence against her. From what I'd heard, she was working at a different accounting firm now, living alone in a one-bedroom apartment downtown. Derek had been transferred to his company's Atlanta office shortly after our confrontation. Turns out, small towns have long memories when it comes to home wreckers. As for me, I was learning to be happy again, learning to trust my own instincts, to value myself enough not to accept a life of lies and betrayal as the price for someone else's comfort. Dad, can Sarah come for dinner tomorrow? Camilla called from the kitchen. If you'd like her to, I answered. I do. She's nice, and she really listens when I talk. I smiled. My daughter was learning the difference between people who truly care and those who just pretend. It was a lesson that would serve her for the rest of her life. The house felt peaceful now, honest, as if the very walls were relieved to no longer be holding secrets. I had built something real here, a home where my daughter could grow up knowing she was loved, protected, and valued, where truth mattered more than convenience, and where promises actually meant something. It wasn't the life I had planned, but it was better than the lie I had been living. And that was enough. That was